Thanks for joining us today, everybody. Great to see you on our journey through the Bible. This is Tim, retired pastor and Bible teacher, and your guide through Scripture. Our reading for today was in the Gospel of Mark, chapter 12 and 13. And Jesus has a lesson for us about the subject of giving. You know, people have asked me many questions about giving or the offering or tithing. Usually it starts with the same phrase: do I have to tithe on fill in the blank? Unemployment benefits, Social Security, and insurance settlement. It goes on and on. They're really asking the wrong question when they ask that, and we'll see that in our story today. But you know, when we talk about giving, I think the best model of New Testament giving is probably in Galatians chapter 4 and verse 15, where the Apostle Paul says, I bear record that if it had been possible, you would have plucked out your own eyes and given them to me. Now, that kind of giving, I think, makes 10% look small, don't you? But that's what the Bible shows us. Well, there are a couple of principles about the offering, about giving, that Jesus teaches us in this story. First is that the Lord actually takes note of your giving. In verse 41 of chapter 12, it says, Jesus sat over against the treasury and beheld how the people cast money into the treasury, and many that were rich cast in much. The treasury was a box. It was in the court of the women, but that's where the offering was collected. And so they're watching people as they throw some money in the box. And verse 42, though, says, there came a certain poor widow, and she threw in 2 mites, which make a farthing. The word translated mite is a small coin made of brass. It's the smallest coin that was in use among the Jews. We don't even have any coins that small. It'd be about a third of a penny today. But widows at that time were often destitute. Um, there was little they could do to earn money. There was no government assistance. Life insurance hadn't been invented. Any inheritance would go to their son. They were dependent on family or on charity of others just to survive. There are many who imagine that money and how much they spend or keep or give away is not God's concern. But actually, He does take notice, and it does make a difference to Him. And that's why Jesus was doing this. But He shows us an important principle that what we keep is as significant as what we give. In verse 43, it says, He called unto Him His disciples and saith unto them, Verily I say unto you, this poor widow hath cast in more than all they which have cast into the treasury. So who gave the most? It was the widow who gave God everything. That probably wasn't too smart, was it? I've read some commentators who have made a point of mentioning that, the Lord is not actually condoning giving in a way that's foolish or imprudent. And actually, that's exactly how you would characterize what this woman had done. Her gift was foolish, extravagant. But sometimes people who are in love do foolish and extravagant things. And this was an act of love and an act of faith. She was trusting God to meet her needs. But you see, God values gifts differently than we do. Our money, the amount of it, means nothing to Him, but our hearts do. Verse 44, Jesus uh, summed this up by saying, All they did cast in of their abundance, but she of her want did cast in all that she had, even all her living. The others, they gave what they could afford. They may have, quote, sacrificed a vacation at the Dead Sea at the most, but they still had plenty to live on. The widow was now broke. It was all God's. But as far as God's keep score, it was the widow who was the most generous because she had nothing left for herself. That's the important thing. Can I make some observations based on what Jesus teaches us here? Number one, God doesn't need our money. He already has it all. And if He needed something else, He could just create it. Secondly, even though God doesn't need our money, He uses people devoted to doing his work. The tabernacle was built on the basis of offerings in the temple, in churches and missionaries today. And it's appropriate to give to God by giving to people who are doing God's work. And number three, God is more concerned with what we have left than the amount given. Our tendency is to think that, what we earn belongs to us, but the reality is it belongs to God, and we're just managers of His resources for a few years. And finally, be sensitive to the amount the Lord is leading you to give. I've had people that didn't ask for anything, but for some reason the Lord impressed on me that they needed some help, and I was glad to pull out a $20 bill and do what I could. If God leads you in that area, don't question it; just give. That's what this widow did. I think the Lord was prompting her. The Church of Jesus Christ really has all it needs to evangelize the world, to meet the needs of the poor, to do its work, to maintain our buildings. But so often it's still in the pockets of the Lord's people. If you want to know how much someone really loves God, let's say don't listen to his words, look at his checkbook. And I'll leave it at that today. Think about it, meditate on that, my friends. And stay in the Word. Tomorrow our reading is in Mark chapter 14 to 16. And we'll bring this gospel to a conclusion and then go on. But have a great day, folks, and I'll see you soon.